What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome to episode 3 of Section 324. Greg from Ontario, Jeff from Gold Coast, Australia. The big news, hockey is back, almost. Obviously, there's no start date yet, but this has got me excited that we're eventually going to be able to watch our boys in blue again.
I couldn't be happier to hear about the good news about the return to play plan. I guess we'll touch base on that and the Leafs odds against Columbus a little bit closer to the start date. But for now, let's have a look at our big four forwards and discuss what we liked and what we didn't like this season from Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, and William Nylander. You can start it off, Greg.
All right, well, let's start off with number 34. Not only is he number 34, but he's also number one in all the hearts of the Leaf fans because this man is a goal-scoring machine. 47 goals. Yes, he was going to hit the big 50 mark. Was he going to beat Ricky Vive? I'm just going to go out there and say that he would have accomplished that. How do you not like this man's season? From stats to the little details to the plus minus. Austin Matthews' stat line to me has been fantastic this season.
What a breakout season from Austin Matthews. Just the way he controlled the offense. Every time he touched the puck, he looked dangerous. His stick handling improved tremendously over the offseason and throughout the season. His playmaking and his shot is obviously second to none in terms of wrist shot and release. 50 goals, that was a given. 54 goals, I would take the over on that if we were playing an 82-game season. He's a shot-producing machine. For all the gamblers out there, anytime one of your websites or bookies offers you the over-under on the Matthews shot totals per game, take the over. It started off as like a 2.5 shots. Then I went to 3.5. Then I went to 4.5. And I was still betting on him on the 4.5, and he was winning every single game. Just complete dominance. He's starting to look more and more like that superstar that we were expecting to get. And, you know, his ability to play a 200-foot game has really impressed me this year.
Yeah, I think he's finally learning the little details of what it takes to be that next level superstar. Obviously, his skill set and his scoring are going to be there. But if you look at the small details, plus minus way up, his face-off percentage has been fantastic. I think he's 55% on the year. Once you complete every little other aspect of that game, that's when you become the most dangerous man on the ice at all times. And that's what Austin Matthews is becoming. So it's fantastic to see. Obviously, the man he's the highest paid player on the team, but he's also earning that paycheck night in and night out.
Yeah, at first, I mean, like you look at the cap price that he comes in at, and you know it's quite high, but the value you're getting is there, and that's what superstars are paid to produce. And you know he's worth every penny of that dollar. No regret other than not getting him locked in for 8 years, but you know that's a problem we'll have to face in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So obviously, what we liked,
Everything. Let's just keep it
everything,
simple. Everything.
everything on AM 34. Just keep doing what you do. Leaf fans are overjoyed at what we have and a 50 goal score. Hopefully, every year going forward. Hopefully, has the chance next year to hit the 50 mark. That would be just absolutely fantastic.
Anything you'd like to see from Austin Matthews for this playoff stretch when we do return to play?
I want to see him play with a bit of feistiness, and not in terms of going out there and finishing every body check or gloves to the face in scrums and like that. I just want to see him play with a bit of an edge because he's a big horse, 6'3", 220. He can overpower pretty much everybody on the ice. He has to utilize that a bit more. I think once he learns that he can do that every shift as well, we're going to see even more dominance and more breakout from Austin.
I agree with you. I think once he adds that little bit of fuck you in him every shift, I think he's going to be even more unstoppable. Right now, there's guys in the league, and especially in the playoffs, playing Columbus. It's not going to come easy. These guys are going to grind you and stick you, and they're going to be in your face. So if you shy away from that, they're just going to keep coming and coming and coming even harder. If you stand up for yourself and dish it out a little bit. Finish your checks. It is the playoffs. I mean, I would like to see him finish all of his checks in the playoffs, because if he does, then there's no fucking reason for the bottom half of the roster to not do it. If our captain's setting the example, well, not our captain, but if our leader is setting the example every shift, then, everyone should buy in, and hopefully team success can follow.
I agree on that. All right, next up, you just mentioned the captains. Let's dive into number 91, JT. So far, to me, it's like a roller coaster season. I think the difference of playing, different line mates throughout the season, you had that little bit of an injury there. What have we liked with John Tavares this season so far?
Oh, man. To be honest, like you said, I love John Tavares. Like, I'm a huge supporter. I'm still thankful to this day that he signed with Toronto. But, I mean, there wasn't too much to love about his game this year. The stats are there. He's almost a point a game.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he's having an off season from a stats point of view. If anything, like he's still like a point a game. And it's just the goals weren't there. A little bit of, injury problems earlier in the year. That didn't help. Coaching change probably threw him off a little bit. New line mates, which I didn't necessarily think benefited him. But overall, like, you know what you're going to get from him. He skates hard every night. There have been nights this year where, he went missing, especially offensively. But, he competes, and he sets the tone for the rest of the younger guys. And, still love John Tavares.
Yeah, if you look at who he plays against every night, it's Tavares' line that's still going up against the big boys on the other team, because we don't necessarily have that third line shutdown line. So he's going up against the Crosbys, the McDavids, your top players on the other team. So for him to still have the stat line that he does, almost a point a game, good face-off percentage, but the plus minus obviously isn't there. But he's sometimes having a harder matchup, which also frees up Austin and the other line to do their thing. So, what I like so far from Tavares is that he's still leading the team. You can tell that his international experience, has led him to this status. Obviously, no one is named captain for no reason. And obviously what we'd like to see going forward is you'd like to see that scoring burst come back, hopefully. And hopefully once we return to play that he can kind of rejuvenate himself. Hopefully this rest has helped him out. And hopefully he can get back into form.
I agree. I mean, I think the rest is going to benefit all of the Leafs, especially Freddie Anderson. And, I think, it gives us actually a little bit of an advantage, especially considering how much of a roller coaster season it's been. John Tavares, what I'd like to see moving forward, not that he can control this, but I'd like to see him back with Mitch Marner to give us, that line was just really good last year with Hyman and Marner. Just keeping Marner with Tavares, and then Austin Matthews at this point, he can play with anyone because he's creating his own offense. I do understand the logic behind putting our best playmaker and passer with our best shooter, but I just didn't find Tavares as dangerous this season. So, if you put him back up with Marner, then we have two lines that can really play and score at any point.
Yeah, I almost felt that when he was playing with Marner, it seemed like they were equal. And then now that he's been dropped down a line per se, that obviously he's playing with Nylander right now. That we're seeing Nylander maybe carry more of that line, just based on his play alone this year, right?
I mean, Willie's had a good season, no doubt about it. But I personally like. The numbers are there for Tavares and Nylander as a second line, but I just didn't love them together. There was nothing about them that really stood out to me. I was like, wow, like this line really works. It was more
like
of
the gel. The gel wasn't there, the chemistry.
It's like, and I don't want to see Nylander playing on a shutdown line.
Nope.
I'd rather him get those offensive zone starts. Marner's way better defensively. I'd love to see Nylander and Matthews back together, throw Hyman on that wing or Mikheyev, whoever, and then put Marner back with Tavares for the playoffs. That's ideally what I would like to see.
Yeah. Okay, well, obviously with Tavares, we've gone over what we've liked, didn't like, what we hoped for. Hopefully, he can regain his form. Let's go on to Nylander. Obviously, a breakthrough season. That contract situation from last year, the slow out of the gate coming back. But this man has 31 goals. That's what you're paying him $7 million for.
Yeah. And, at the time of the holdout, I always thought, we're going to get him at a decent deal. Like, the guy's very talented. He came in at he's coming in at 6.92 on the cap, making over 7, which is completely fine. He's earning it. He was on pace for, I think, 36, 37 goals for the year, and playing second line, not getting every offensive zone start. So for him, I just like the way that he was going to the net more. And, that was obvious. Instead of shying away, he was trying to finish those rebounds, and, he was getting a lot of puck luck as well. So well done to Nylander for, putting up with the Toronto media and all the trade rumors and persevering through all that bullshit and refining himself.
Yeah, I think obviously you can tell that he's a super talented individual. I think he put in the work this offseason, wanting to come back with that "fuck you" attitude that I am worth this type of
Yeah.
money, and also I don't want to be the guy that gets traded out of here, so I better
Yeah.
perform.
And I don't want to be getting written about in the papers every other day as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he,
So he probably
he's a
would.
confident guy.
Yeah,
He in training camp, I think he told Mike Babcock, he's like, "I'm going to dominate this year."
yeah.
And then Babcock released that to the press just to kind of spark that fire and be Babcock. But, he's lived up to it. He's in shape. He's, the thing I love about Willie is his versatility. Like, he can play center, he can play left wing, he can play right wing. What I'd like to see more from him moving forward, I'd actually like to see him play the off wing. He has experience playing the left side in Sweden, and I just love, like, if William Nylander is wheeling up the ice from the left side, he's just way more of a shooting threat from that side opposed to being on his strong side.
100%, yeah, and even for Matthews too, it opens up if he gets tossed back on a line with Matthews, it opens up those
One
opportunities for
timer.
one
Yeah.
timers, right? I understand Babcock's logic on
Yeah. The
right-handed shot,
defensive.
right
Yeah.
wing, and same with the defenseman, but sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes guys are just too good to not play that side. Like Ovechkin's done it his entire career. Who's going to tell?
Patrick Kane as well.
Yeah, who's going to tell Ovechkin go on the other side? No, it doesn't happen. Obviously, he comes down that wing and lets laser beams go top corner.
Yeah.
Nylander has a good shot. It's proven that he's scoring this year. What we'd like to see maybe from him in the playoffs. Same sort of thing with Matthews. I'd like to see him bump up his intensity. Understand that this is the playoffs. That Toronto needs to win a playoff series this year once we get going again. And hopefully continue to realize that he can dominate in every aspect of the game.
Yeah. Some people are still tough on him not being a great defensive player. I think he backchecks at a decent rate. Does he shy away from contact sometimes? Yes. In the playoffs, I hope he, understands that this is what we pay for. We want playoff series wins. We need a championship in the city at one point. If you're not going to buy in and do everything you can to help us win, then, maybe you're not the right fit. But
yeah, well, it's gonna come down to it that Columbus, I think, as a team, understands that they're not as talented as the Maple Leafs.
They're going to grind. Honestly,
how are
I
they
think
going to win?
it's the perfect matchup for Toronto. I absolutely, a lot of people are saying it's a tough matchup for them. I disagree. I think if we can't get by Columbus, who can't score goals,
then they're not going to get by anybody.
Then we don't deserve to. We don't deserve to play in the playoffs. We might as well be out and get a shot at a top 10 lottery pick. It's protected. So, it's a win-win scenario for the Leafs. Like, we have inexperienced Columbus goaltenders. Obviously they have a stacked defensive team and good coaching, and, they're strong, and they're the guys who just, commit and buy in. So if Toronto can't get by them, then that's just a roster shakeup might be needed. This is like a Dubas wake-up call. This is your official hot seat warning. If your roster just can't get by Columbus, who can't score goals, then, it's time to reevaluate everything if we don't make that playoffs.
Okay. Last guy in the big four, Mitchell Marner. Um, Points are there. Stat
Yeah,
line is insane.
he's a point guy, and
Yes.
I obviously just didn't think he had a good season, and I think he can be the first one to admit it. I just like to see a little bit more effort from him when we do have bad games, or we do have where he has a shit back check or something. Like, it was just, he was just expecting it to be easy. I don't know. It's like he changed the way his game as soon as he got paid. The last 3 years on his entry level deal, this guy was zooming up the ice and working just as hard on the back check to try to, get the
Yeah.
puck back.
Blocking shots,
That
being the
was missing
first.
this year. I don't know. I think he
Yeah.
put too much pressure on himself where he needed to score and he needed to be getting those points, but it took away from other points of his game that are important to team success.
Yeah. There was these little plays that he would do that would remind you of, they were just little mistakes. I could count so many times off the top of my head where he would, for example, on the power play, just be making some blatantly errant passes, and those are things
And
that
shots too.
and
There was a
shot.
lot of
Yeah,
time where I just remember, like, I always bet on the Leafs, especially like live in play. And anytime I went on the power play, I was like, yes, I need a goal here from one of the stars. And the last guy I want shooting is Marner. Like, I want him passing the puck every single time. And he was taking these flimsy wrist shots that, they're
yeah.
just not going to go in.
Little muffins going into the
Yeah.
goalie's chest from the blue line. Yeah,
That's speaking of something that I'd like to see him improve. Like, that's what you need to improve this offseason. Do some wrist curls in the gym, shoot 100 pucks a day minimum, and just get your strength up a little bit for your shot.
yeah. His shot, like, he's accurate, but it's just not threatening to a goalie
Not in the
when
NHL.
yeah, when you're on a power play setup and that goalie's stagnant,
Yeah.
you don't have the one timer, and obviously the other teams, if you're on the power play, they're gonna let you shoot. Like, would you rather have Matthews shoot or Marner shoot? They're gonna give Mitch that shot all day.
Every
So
time the teams were giving Mitch that shot.
yeah, and like I said, I think sometimes, like I said, maybe he was just trying to overthink a play, but some of those silly mistakes we weren't used to seeing in the first 3 years. That hopefully those go away. Hopefully this break, refreshes everybody in the big top four, and the Leafs can come out guns a blazing whenever game one gets going in this best of five series.
Yep. I personally think out of all the people on the team, Mitch Marner might be the most benefited guy from this break. Um, he's the type of guy who the skill is never just going to fade from this guy. And he's never, like, he's in shape, but he's not one of those guys who dominates because he's in shape. He dominates because he's so smart and he's so skilled. And that is probably the easiest thing to pick back up in terms of your physical fitness. So, given the season that he was having, I think this is like perfect for him. Not obviously good for Austin Matthews, but for Marner, I think he's the star that will benefit the most from this quarantine, and hopefully he can just kind of take some time to reflect on his game and come back and dominate for the postseason.
There we go. Well, we like it. So that's the big top four. But before we go, I just want to ask you thoughts on one little pondering line match that I've always dreamed of. I've always wanted to see Matthews, Tavares, and Marner on a line, even just for one game.
I'd love to
Obviously,
see that.
Mitch is going to be right side. Matthews and Tavares can flip flop center left wing because even Tavares has played left wing Team Canada. Um, Boston Bruins do it. Avalanche did it last year. Best three players on a line. Thoughts on that heading into the playoffs, and if it potentially works out for the Leafs?
I would love to see it. I mean, if we're losing and the third period rolls around, I think that's the perfect time to kind of, experiment with it.
Let the
But
big dogs out.
the problem is, like, we're so thin at center ice. Just like, if we still had Kadri, we'd be able to roll that line. It wouldn't be an issue, because then you have Kadri, Nylander, and probably Kapanen or Mikheyev or Hyman on the second line, and all of a sudden you can do that every game. But at this point, it's like you kind of need your two centers and your two top wingers to be spread out. I'd love to see it. I know we've talked about it before, but I just don't think it's something that can bring team success given how thin we are at center and the rest of the roster.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Good point. I'd like to see them potentially try that big line, maybe go 11-7, roll the dice, see what happens. But obviously that we can only wait and see what happens. So for Greg down here, well, up here in Ontario, Jeff down there in Gold Coast, Australia, thank you for tuning in. This has been episode 3 of section 324. Please give us a follow on our Instagram page, and also subscribe to our channel. We greatly appreciate it. And we will be back in episode 4 discussing the $10 million third line, and what we potentially would like to see management do with those 3 players. So signing off, we will see you later.
See you guys. Thanks for joining us.